Today we will recapitulate the story. Then I will mention the questions which were asked by Joanne or Joe while that story was narrated. Later I will summarize the lesson. If time permits, we will discuss about some in-text question, recapitulation of that story. In that story, we have learned that there is a creature. The name of that creature is Roger. Only that second name is changed. Roger Fish, Roger Squirrel, Roger Chipmunk, like that. And the story was about the Roger. Roger generally suffers from a problem, goes to the wise owl and finds solution. The owl directs him to go to the magician, and then magician would solve his problem in exchange for a few pennies or the paise, what we can say. And to arrange for insufficient pennies or paise, the magicians would direct the creature to a place where he could find it. Then Roger would be happy and would return home just in time to hear the train whistles that brought his daddy home from Boston. This was the story. And while narrating this story, she has raised numbers of questions. What are the questions she has raised? Just we will see. When that story was narrated, first she asked the question. Or we can say she interrupts the father while he was narrating the story by asking questions. First question is, will not he see the owl? The second question she asked, are magic spell real? Third question when she asked, why were all things jumbled together in a big dusty heap? Next question, why did the wizard do not have any cleaning lady? Next question is, will wizard die? Next question is, you said Roger Fish, wasn't that silly? Yes, in the last or previous module, when I was narrating that story, I told you that remember this Roger Fish. Actually, the story was of Roger Skunk. Now, by asking this question, we can understand how intently the girl is listening to the story. Simply that father has committed mistake. Instead of saying skunk, he said fish. So she raised the question, you said Roger Fish. Wasn't that silly? So she want to correct that word. Next question is, what is pick up sticks? While he was narrating about the games, she asked, she couldn't understand what is this pick up sticks games. Next question is, then did the other little animal run away? Last question, what is eventuality? Actually, she couldn't pronunciate that word eventually. These are the questions she has raised while the story was narrated to her on that particular day. These are not important questions, but the moral questions which she has raised is different. That question itself is the title of that story. Should wizard hit mommy or not? It is being asked to you also, whether mom should hit wizard or wizard should hit mommy. Yes, now I summarize that story. Should wizard hit mommy? The story deals with how parents feel that their decisions and opinions should not be questioned, as they must impress on their children that they are always right. However, growing children do not always agree with what their parents feel is right and have the right to form their own individual personalities. So here, the views are classes. What that parents accept, the children doesn't want to accept. That's what we see. Jack had been telling bedtime story to his daughter, Jo or Joanne. since she was 2 years old. Now that she was 4, for last 2 years he was narrating that story. This tradition seemed futile as she did not take naps anymore. Naps means short sleeps. The theme of this story were basically the same, the story which is narrated to her, with a slight change in the character who was always named Roger. First name will always remain same, Roger, but the second name he used to change, like Roger Fish, Roger Chipmunk, Roger Squirrel, etc. And now today the story which he is going to narrate about the animal is Roger Skunk, and the name is given by his daughter. Roger always had a problem which he took to the wise old owl, who would direct him to the wizard who could cast a magic spell to dispel the problem. Roger never had enough to pay him. Then Roger would happily play with his friends until it was time to go home to his mother, just as the whistle of the Boston train could be heard. This train brought the creature's father home for supper with his family. That day, particularly on that Saturday, when he was narrating that story, Joe wanted a story about Roger Skunk, as she had just learnt about skunks in a nursery school. Jack began the story and told Joe that Roger Skunk had a foul smell, and thus he did not have any friends and was very lonely. This was the problem with the skunk, Roger. To solve his problem, he went to the wise old owl, who directed him to the wizard's house. The wizard asked him for 7 pennies, but as Roger had only 4, the wizard told him to go to the magic well and get the extra pennies. With his wand, what we say the stick, a magic stick, and by chanting a magic spell, the wizard changed Roger Skunk's smell to the sweet smell of roses. All the little animals gathered around Roger Skunk, as now he smelled so good. Roger Skunk was not lonely anymore, and he had many friends to play with. So while Jack was telling the story, Joe interrupted him several times, that we have already seen in the beginning itself, by asking different questions. She had heard the story so many times that she would tell him what came next, which annoyed him, as he wanted the women in his family to hang on to his words. Follow. Hang on, follow. Once when he called the animal Roger Fish, she corrected him, as that day the story was about a skunk. Father committed a mistake while narrating the story of making mention of the name of that animal. He had to make mention of that animal. The name of the animal was Roger's Fish. Actually, it's a Roger Skunk. His wife, Claire, was 6 months pregnant, and that day they were supposed to paint the household furniture, something he did not want to do. He could hear the rumble of a chair, although Claire should not have been moving anything. When Roger Skunk went home after playing with his friends, his mummy was angry about the horrible smell of roses, as they were skunks and were supposed to smell like them too. His mummy picked up her umbrella and took Roger back to the wizard. She hit the wizard on the head and told him to change her son back to his original smell and to get rid of the roses smell. The wizard agreed. Roger Skunk and his mom went back home. When Roger was in bed, his mother hugged him and said he smelled like her little baby again, and she loved him more than before. However, Joe was not satisfied with this ending. Joe was upset, as now Roger would again be lonely and without any friends. Jack said that Roger's mommy was correct, in what she had done, as she knew what was best for her son. He was a skunk and should smell like one. Joe did not agree and insisted that the wizard hit Mommy on the head instead and not change Roger back to his foul smell again. She did not want Roger to be lonely and unhappy and call the mommy stupid. Jack said that with time, other animals got used to skunk's smell and quickly jumped to the mother's defense, making even Joe think that he was defending own mother. Jack explained to her that Roger loved his mommy more and knew that she made the right decision for him. However, Joe was insistent that the next day he tell the story with a happy ending. Jack scolded her and asked her to go to sleep. Now let us discuss textbook questions. In text questions as well as in the end of the text you will find some questions that we will discuss. First question is, who is Jo? How does she respond to her father's storytelling? We know that. Who is Jo? Jo was a 4-year-old girl who was fond of listening to stories. Every Saturday afternoon, her father Jack used to tell Jo a story to put her to sleep. This was the purpose to narrating that story to Jo. Jo was a very keen listener and used to ask many questions. She even predicated the next moment. She used to get so much involved in the story that her facial expression also changed accordingly. So what we have seen, she is having keen interest in listening to the story. So how does she respond to her father's storytelling? By asking questions and predicating the next moment, by showing the facial expressions. Next question is, what possible plot line could the story continue with? Here, the possible line could be that Roger Skunk's mommy would not like the smell of roses. She would take him back to the wizard and ask him to make him a skunk again, without any specific smell, free from any odor. Odor is a strong smell. So this is the plot line of the story. Next question is, what do you think was Joe's problem? While narrating the story, by asking that moral questions, we can understand Joe has some problem. What is that problem? Joe was a small girl. For her, peer acceptance was of prime importance. This is the actual problem. Peer acceptance means in the same group, the children likes to be accepted by other children. So she could not imagine the main character of the story to smell so bad as to be humiliated and shunned by other animals. So because of it, the other animals, they do not come close to the Roger and play with that Roger. So it was quite embarrassing to smell bad. So she wanted acceptability and peer appreciation, as she identified with the pain and suffering of Roger Skunk. This was the problem. Some other questions in the end of the text you will find. After reading the text, what is the moral issue that the story raises? The story deals with the moral issue of the extent of parental over the children or parental care. how much freedom is to be given to the children? Is the question which is raised. Moreover, the story raises an issue whether children should be allowed to remain in an ideal world or make world of their own, or should they be forced to accept the harsh reality of the adult world. So this is the moral issue that is raised in this story. Next question is, how does Joe want the story to end and why? Joe wants a happy ending of the story. We know that all the stories have two different types of ending. One is tragic, another is happy. So Joe wants a happy ending of the story. She wants that Roger skunk will get the smell of roses and Mommy should be punished. And she wants that the wizard should hit Mommy because it is cruel on the part of Mommy to make Roger skunk again smell like a skunk or bad. As a small child, acceptability and peer appreciation is of prime importance. Every child, they like to be accepted by all. Next question is, why does Jack insist that the mother would not be hit? But father has a different outlook. For Jack, the father of Joe, hitting the mother was a challenge to the parental authority. While defending Roger's mother, Jack is unconsciously defending his own mother, who could never be wrong. He wanted his daughter to understand the fact that mothers can never be wrong. In other words, parental authority is for the benefit of a child. Next question. What makes Jack feel caught in the ugly middle position? Here in simple, we can say that neither he was able to make her daughter sleep or he was able to help his wife. This was the middle ugly position actually. So how you can write this? Jack feels caught in the ugly middle position because his little daughter Jo was in a defiant mood. She didn't want to obey what father was saying and wanted the wizard to hit Mommy. But Jack did not want to lose his authority, so he threatened her and ordered her to sleep. He was feeling helpless in handling his little daughter, who had suddenly started asserting her opinion. Moreover, he knew that his wife was waiting for him to help her, so he feels trapped and uneasy. So this is the ugly middle position Jack was caught. Next question is, what is your stance regarding the two endings to the Roger skunk story? One ending is Roger skunk story that the wizard should hit Mommy. This is what the Joe wants. But how that story was come to an end? When that story was narrated by her father, he said, "Mother, hit the wizard." So children see fact as they are, as did Joe. She thought it was unfair that the skunk's mother should go back to the wizard and force him to change the skunk back into his stinky old self. This way he would lose all his friends and be lonely and sad. When he smelt of roses, he was more acceptable and had friends. So here the question is, what is your stance regarding the two endings to the Roger skunk story? So there are two different endings we have seen in the story. One is Mommy hits wizard another wizard, should wizard hit mommy. This is the two different ending is there. So now you have to answer whether mother should hit the wizard or wizard should hit the mommy or mother. So adults, on the other hand, are colored by biases or sometimes base their conclusions on the wisdom of their experiences, as did Jack. So he felt that the skunk's mother knew what was best for him. This can be translated to mean either that adults know what is best for their children, or that adults are in the habit of imposing their will on children. Thus, how the story should end would depend largely on how each one interprets the facts of the story and their underlying implications. Next question is, why is an adult's perspective on life different from that of a child's? So in the story, Should Wizard Hit Mommy?, the writer examines the issues of parenting and the flaws that inadvertently creep in. The adult tendency to quell the questioning mind, quell here meaning is suppress, of a child, and also the intrusion of the beliefs held by adults to represent the only valid viewpoint, are areas that find mention in the simple yet powerful story. Jo, the 4-year-old daughter of Jack, has been subjected to a ritual of bedtime story telling by her father ever since she was 2 years of age. Now, Jo wants the wizard to hit mommy in retaliation for her having hit the wizard. If mommy got away with turning the skunk, which now smelt of roses, into his old stinky self, he would lose his newfound friends. This violated Joe's sense of fairness. For why should the skunk not smell nice, have friends, and thus be happy? So in this lesson, we have discussed about the questions raised by Joanne or Joe, and the summary of the lesson. And in the beginning, we have recapitulate the story. Now, beyond the textbook, we will see that there is a message in this story. So what is that message? The story is, Should Wizard Hit Mommy? The story Should Wizard Hit Mommy addresses important moral issues. It deals with the idea that parents know what is best for their children, because parents love their children the most. One should not look for instant solution to the problems in life. Generally, this is what we see in this world. Everyone wants instant solution, whatever the problems they face. For that, they do not worry about what is good and what is bad. One should wait patiently for acceptance from friends. Acceptance or the lack of it from friends should not mean that you change the way nature has intended you to be. Like in the story we have seen that Roger skunk had a bad smell and changed into a very good smell. The author John Updike addresses common issue found in most families. Children have their own identity and views. What we generally say, the generation gap, that is also there. what that parents like, children do not like, and what generally the children's like, the parent doesn't. Parents find it difficult to accept the fact that their children have individual identities and don't appreciate diversity and creativity. So they should not impose ideas on each other and build a culture of mutual respect and tolerance. This is the message from that story. So one more thing, what we learn from this story is, should wizard hit mommy? Two different type of ending is there. And if we see in the story which is narrated by the father, the ending is different, and what that Joe wants, how to end that story. So actually it is the issue of a debate. Generally in your question paper class 12th, but this year that question is not there. You have to write a debate of 150 words or of 200 words. So this year, because of the reduced syllabus, that topic is deleted. So this lesson teaches us how to prepare for debate. Thank you.